Hi everyone. I got a good book for Christmas, World Radio and TV Handbook 2016. I have owned a couple of these in the past, but not for many years, probably 15 years since I last bought one. So they cost £35 from Amazon, so it's a bit of an investment, and I know that there are schedules, etc. available online, but it's quite nice to have a book as well to take with you, maybe if you're travelling or whatever. I know from experience that the schedules online are flaky, they don't always agree with each other. There's quite a lot of information in this book before you actually get to the sort of schedules part, and with reviews and what have you, and I thought I'd just flick through it and show you guys what was in it, if you were in two minds whether to buy it or not. So starting, so there's an editorial, which I think is normal, and then there's an article about what it's like to be a contributor to the book, and then there's some receiver reviews, starting with the C Crane CC Skywave, and I think Thomas Witherspoon actually does this review. He's the guy that runs the SWLing website that we know so well. There's a review on the AOR ARD V1, which is the digital voice receiver, which got an okay review. And there's a review on the Eaton Satellit, which actually says that this is a pretty good radio. I've read other reviews to the contrary, but it's not a huge receiver in the way that the previous ones were. This is more of a portable, but the review is kind of summarises that it's a good radio, very good radio. Texan PL680 we kind of know about. Thomas does the review on that, and then there's a review on a loop antenna, and then a kind of matrix of models with various parameters and how they rate, so useful. This being the 70th edition, there's a little bit of history from the first edition through the years to the latest, and then there's an article on the first kind of century or so of medium wave and long wave broadcasting in the UK, which is quite interesting. I haven't read it all yet. And then what's more interesting is 70 years of reception. So this is a kind of overview of sort of typical receivers from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s. The 70s focuses on the Barlow Wadley XCR30. So this is the receiver, I think it was built in South Africa, with the Wadley loop principle to give a very stable and accurate radio, even though it's analog. It's quite interesting. And then it goes on to the Kenwood R1000, the Drake R8, my dream radio, or was, until someone told me that they get a bit hot. And then the Win Radio Excalibur Ultra, which apparently is probably the best receiver money can buy outside of kind of like the military grade. And then there's an article about radio projects in Timor-Leste. And there's an article by Thomas Witherspoon again. This is about the future of shortwave. I've read this previously, although I think this is a modified version. Just basically discussing, the future of shortwave. Obviously, the nature of shortwave is changing. International broadcasters are closing down, but private stations are starting up, and obviously with fewer very large broadcasters, there are some DX stations which are easier to receive now. So it's not all bad news. It's a good article from Thomas. There's a guide to SDRs, which is very useful. I haven't read it yet. And there's a matrix with some of the more popular models that are available. HF reception conditions expected. So this is basically the expected propagation through 2016, which I have read and is basically going to be similar to 2015. And then the most suitable frequencies. I remember this. I think I remember this from years ago. So this is a matrix that allows a listener to basically locate their area, where they are in the world, time, UTC, and then look at what bands are most appropriate for receiving transmitters by geographical location. So it's quite useful. I think I've seen that before. Again, I wouldn't swear to it, but it's a good way of kind kind of pinpointing the which bands you should be looking at if you're trying to receive a station in a particular part of the world. So it's quite good. There's a small section on how to use the book, and then there are some maps with shortwave transmitter sites, which is quite good. There's a world timetable, and then there's the actual schedules, which are split by national radio stations, international, and then by frequency, and then TV, and then there's a reference section at the end. So there's a lot of information here. I think all the transmitter addresses, postal addresses are included. So if you want to write for QSLs, it's a huge amount of information in here. And I think £35 is quite a lot of money to invest in a book, but when particularly there is a lot of information online, but having reviewed it last night, I think it's worth it. So, but I thought it would be useful for you guys just to have a look at some of the other information at the front of the book, and decide, maybe that'll help you decide whether to actually get one or not. So I hope that was useful. Okay, thanks for watching.